Ever notice how you walk into a room and think, I've already lived this scene? The music feels too loud, the jokes feel familiar, and the chaos just doesn't impress you. Meanwhile, everyone else seems to be sprinting toward the fun, and you're already scanning for the exit or the quiet corner. You might be 22 or 35 or somewhere in between, but inside, you feel older. Not tired exactly, not bitter, just ahead of your time. Maybe you've caught yourself saying things like, I'm too old for this, while your birth certificate laughs in your face. Maybe you prefer conversations about meaning over memes, depth over drama, tea over tequila. Or maybe you've always felt like you skipped a stage, like everyone else got a carefree chapter you somehow missed. If any of that feels uncomfortably familiar, stay with me. Because feeling older than your age isn't just a personality quirk. It's a quiet psychological pattern with a few surprising roots, and once you see them, you might understand yourself in a whole new way. Let's start with a type you might recognize immediately. Some people grow up fast because they had to. Picture a kid who learned early how to read a room, not because they were curious, but because someone else's mood mattered. Maybe there was emotional unpredictability at home. Maybe responsibilities arrived early. Maybe being mature wasn't praised, it was required. So this person becomes observant, careful, attuned. They don't just play, they manage. Years later, they're the friend who seems unflappable, calm, thoughtful, a little detached. They don't chase novelty because novelty once meant instability. Their nervous system learned that safety comes from anticipation, not spontaneity. Feeling older isn't about age here, it's about pattern recognition. When you've seen enough cycles of human behavior early on, the repetition stops being exciting. It starts feeling predictable, and predictability, ironically, ages you. If that's you, you might feel a strange mix of pride and grief. Pride in your competence, grief for the parts of you that never got to be careless. Then there's another profile, quieter, subtler. This is the person who has always been inwardly rich. As a child, they weren't bored, they were thinking, imagining, reflecting. While others were busy chasing stimulation, they were building inner worlds. They asked big questions early about death, about fairness, about why people behave the way they do. Teachers might have called them old souls. Adults felt oddly comfortable talking to them. Psychologically, this kind of person processes life deeply and slowly. Their mind doesn't skim, it lingers. And when you experience the world this way, you start feeling older simply because you've metabolized more meaning. It's not that you've lived more years, it's that you've lived more layers. The downside, fast-paced environments can feel shallow. Social rituals can feel performative. You might feel impatient with small talk, not because you're arrogant, but because your mind is already somewhere else. When people say, lighten up, you wonder why no one wants to go deeper. Maybe you recognize yourself here. Maybe you've always felt like you arrived emotionally early, and now you're waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. But here's where it gets interesting. Some people feel older than their age because they're secretly exhausted by modern life, not physically, psychologically. Endless notifications, performative happiness, the pressure to be visible, productive, interesting, available. It's a lot, and some nervous systems just don't want to play along. These are the people who prefer routines, who get satisfaction from stability, who don't romanticize chaos. They're not boring, they're conserving energy. When others chase experiences for identity, they're already asking, but will this drain me? Feeling older here is actually a form of quiet rebellion. A refusal to participate in constant novelty, a sense that peace is more valuable than excitement. When you opt out of the cultural script that says youth equals intensity, you can look old by comparison, even if you're just choosing differently. And then there's a type that surprises people. This is the person who feels older because they see through things, trends, social games, status signals. They notice how often people perform versions of themselves instead of being present. They catch the subtext, the insecurity behind the bravado, the loneliness behind the jokes. Once you see these patterns, it's hard to unsee them. You stop being impressed by surfaces, you stop romanticizing chaos, and suddenly the world feels a bit like a rerun. Psychologically, this comes from high social perception. You read between lines, you sense emotional currents, and that awareness can make you feel separate, like you're watching the play from the balcony instead of the stage. You might even envy people who seem blissfully immersed, who don't overanalyze, who can enjoy things without wondering what they mean. But your mind doesn't work that way. And that distance, it ages you, not in years, but in perspective. Now here's the twist most people don't expect. Sometimes feeling older than your age isn't about being ahead, it's about being out of sync. Your internal tempo doesn't match your environment. Your values matured faster than your circumstances. Your emotional needs don't align with the life stage you're supposed to be in. That mismatch creates friction. You feel like you're waiting for a chapter to start, or like you've already moved past the one you're in. And that tension can feel like aging. But it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. In fact, many people who feel older than their age are deeply sensitive, perceptive, and value-driven. They don't rush, they don't numb themselves with noise. They notice, they remember, they choose carefully. The danger isn't feeling older. The danger is confusing that feeling with being done, with being closed, with being resigned. Because there's a difference between wisdom and weariness. If you're not careful, early seriousness can turn into early cynicism, depth can harden into distance, and self-protection can quietly become isolation. So the real question isn't, why do I feel older than my age? It's, what do I do with that awareness? Do you use it to withdraw or to choose better? Do you let it make you rigid or more intentional? Do you mistake calm for stagnation or recognize it as clarity? Maybe feeling older isn't about being ahead or behind. Maybe it's about being tuned to a different frequency. So I'll leave you with this. When did you first feel older than your age? Was it a moment, a phase, or has it always been there? And does it feel like a burden or a quiet strength? If you want to explore these inner patterns more, the ones that don't shout but shape your life, you're in the right place. Which of these profiles felt closest to you? Or did you see someone you know? Sit with that. The answer usually says more than we expect.